Welcome to another episode of the Part of the Culture podcast. I'm here with the homie Don V, creator of Qain Abel. It's going to be one of the hottest brands out of... Where you out of?
San Francisco.
Oh, it's going to be one of the hottest brands out of San Francisco. You got some competition out there. San Francisco brings the heat in the fashion game.
Oh, for sure. I think we got what it takes, though.
I think you do, too. So go ahead and introduce yourself and... hop right into how you started Qain Abel.
Yeah, my name's Don Vinculato, born and raised in San Francisco, and Qain Abel just came up. It was just resonating in my heart and soul last year in the midst of the pandemic, and I did a project last year called Distress, and it was just really to see what I wanted to do if I wanted to keep in the fashion ministry, or not ministry, but fashion industry, photography and styling, and it was really something that took my heart, and I thought I did my best on it, and I gave my all, and I was just like, the success wasn't where I wanted it to be, and I was just kind of asking God, like, what's not working, and then I just felt like he wanted more out of me, and then I just kind of sat back and just let Distress kind of like dwindle down, and then I just started reading the Bible, and Qain Abel was already in my mind, so I kind of just read Genesis chapter 2, and I had to read it about 20 times to figure out like why Qain Abel was kind of important, and it was really just because Abel's willingness to give his best wholeheartedly from the get, and I think a lot of us we choose to start too late, and I know some people say it's never too late, but if you give your best from the very beginning, the reward is a lot more kind of like better for you instead of just waiting last minute or procrastinating.
Oh, for sure.
And that's what we want to present in our message, is just like, give your best, be the best version of yourself. Don't come after, go after it right away.
Yeah, I like that. That's actually super powerful.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that I definitely believe that it's never too late, but I also believe that successful days lead to a successful life. And so the more successful days you have and the more successful actions you take in that day, the more you're going to have a successful life. So if the end of the night you start doing good, then you still have this whole day of seeds that you planted that may not flourish. So I definitely like what you said, and he does. If you look, the Bible's such a powerful book. I don't know why people sleep on it like they do or think all this crazy stuff. When you actually read the Bible, it changes your whole perception. I know for me, when I read the whole Bible, and that Qain and Abel story is actually an excellent example. The story, just the thing that sticks out to me is when Cain killed Abel, how Abel's blood talked to God. That's how he knew. He's like, I can hear his blood in the ground. That always tripped me out. What about that story? Obviously, you said the principle of giving your best from the gate, but what about, there's so many stories in the Bible. What about that story was like, this is it? And what about that story made you read it 20 times? Were you talking to God and praying about it, or you just were kind of, I'm feeling this, I like how it rolls off the tongue? What about that story did it for you?
Yeah, definitely, like, just how it rolls off the tongue off top. Like, I was just like, why does Qain Abel sound like dope?
Does sound dope.
And then like the story just kind of like really got it for me. Like, why most people think like, oh, it's someone killed somebody.
Yeah.
But they don't understand like, oh, they know he was jealous, but like, why was he jealous? And there's a lot of situations in life where people don't give their best, and it's the person that gives their best that gets the ultimate reward.
For sure.
If you think about an athlete, the person who gets to the league is someone who was day in, day out.
Yeah.
From a little kid. There's rare stories where it's someone, like, I have a friend who came from Tonga and is playing in the XFL. Like, his first year in America was the first time he touched a football, and he just gave his best straight out the gate. And there's people that have the size or the talent, but they don't have the work ethic. What like Cain brought. Cain had everything that Abel had. They were equal, but his effort, his work ethic, and his offering was just subpar to what Abel was giving. And I think a lot of people will take shortcuts like Abel did, what Cain did, and just kind of go.
Don't be talking about Abel, dog.
just kind of like half-ass it,
Yeah, for sure.
I think taking shortcuts is like very dangerous, in anything you do, in any industry, taking the shortcuts is very dangerous in my opinion. I think you have to go through the processes to learn and become better. And it's really not about being the best. I think it's just about being better every day. Like thinking about like what can you do better than what you did today, tomorrow? Because we're really not promised tomorrow.
Nah, no way.
And if you know you gave your best today, then I can live with that. You know, I could definitely live with giving my best today, knowing I'm not promised tomorrow. And if I die today, I'd be okay with it.
That's how I look at every deal. So for those of you guys that don't know, I've helped print some of his merchandise, and you know, he could tell you we went to war a little bit with this merchandise because he's very specific on what he wants, and nothing's wrong with that. I actually encourage it. Let's go harder. I'm going to go hard. And so no matter what happens with the merchandise, if he absolutely loves it, if he absolutely hates it, if no matter what happens with this merchandise, I can sleep okay at night because I know that me and my team went as hard as possible. And I would hope saying this in front of you guys and saying this in front of him that resonates. Like, hey, maybe a color's off, or hey, maybe this is off, or hey, but I printed it. This is what was asked of me. I always try to go hard as possible, from the venue to the thing. Hey, you're gonna bring the people. I'll set up this. I'll sweep. I'll mop every day. That's the one thing that I judge myself on, is did I give it my all? You know, did I give it my best? And I feel like I do. I feel like I really do. And it's the times where you try to cut a corner, or you try to, that's one of the first lessons in my business was like, it's better, your name is more valuable than the money, because you can always make money. But if there's, you know, we have a live studio audience right now, you know, and this is his network. And so if he says, at least if he says, you know what, I wasn't feeling the garments. Worst case scenario, I hope he doesn't even say this, but I wasn't feeling the garments, but JD gave everything that he has. Then that's a win for me, because now me and you, like it's all copacetic. But if it's like a bad product, I almost cussed there. You guys caught that? If it was a bad product and I didn't give my all, then it's not good. And I'll end by saying there's a Bible verse. It's like, I'm gonna pair it in Proverbs, but it's something along the lines like, it's like pulling a tooth to send somebody who doesn't do who half-asses. It's better, like it's better to not do anything at all than to half-ass. It's like the worst thing you can do. So I love that you're touching on that, and I love that you're talking about it, because especially with this podcast, I always want to add value. And so anyone listening, anyone that wants to start a brand, man, put your everything into it. You know, even if it's not all your money, put all your best skills, your best effort forth, like Abel.
No, I completely agree with that, and I appreciate like what John Dell brings is something that in the past I never had, was a relationship with someone that's actually, I'm his client, but like he's willing to kind of go forth and build a relationship around it and not just be business. And I think that's also healthy for anybody who's trying to do this. Like, don't just look for it like, hey, just do this for me, do it exactly like this, and then expect everything to be the best. I think also like go out and fight for a relationship. Sometimes you have to fight for it in anything. If it's business, if it's, you know, a romantic relationship, you have to fight for it regardless. But I feel so blessed that I get to work with John Dell, because it's not just business. You know, there's a genuine friendship. He wants the best out of me.
Yeah.
You know, he challenges me too. It's not like just me telling him everything I want to do specifically, but you know, he'll challenge me too, and I think that's what you need to surround yourself with, is people that want the best out of you.
Yeah, I agree 1,000%. It hasn't clicked in my heart or my mind, but it's a principle that I'm working on, and I'm like, why are some people successful and why are some people not that I work with? And the one thing that I realize, and you touched on it, and it's a relationship type thing. Everyone, I think there's a couple of couples in here tonight, and you know, any good relationship, there's hiccups. There's things that your partner does that probably bugs you a little bit. There's things that, yes, right there, tell her the truth, dog. But if you can get through those things with someone, that's what builds a long-lasting love and a long-lasting thing. And so what I realize is I haven't figured out the phrase, but I call it building a brand. And so when you're building a brand, we set up, like right now, there's a lot of stuff that may today come together. And to you guys won't pay attention, but there's a lot of little things that go into building a brand. I got the labels on these shirts. I got them yesterday from his wife, and we were able to put them on today. And so it's like stuff like that, and asking my business partner, like, hey, can we get this done? We have a live podcast tonight, getting people on board. It wasn't I was like, hey, I don't know if we be able to do this. I'm trying my hardest. I was communicating, but that's what it really takes. And so I appreciate what he says about our relationship and becoming friends and things like that, because that's what it really takes to build a brand. Because I can print shirts all day. It's easy for me. But to build a brand, hey, I told him when we met up, like, I have this venue. I don't know how long I have it. I think it would be a perfect fit for what you're doing. He listened. He was like, I have another format that I do, the pop-up. He was like, he didn't say I'm not feeling the pop-up, but he was like, I like the live podcast format, and I would love to bring my clothes out. So I said, yeah, let's do something. And so we set it up. But I feel like you have to be in the same boat as somebody who really wants to build a brand with you. And so, yeah, you can go to a print shop, and yeah, you can have them print, and yeah, you can build a brand yourself. But it is very important when you build your partnerships to find somebody who will build that with you. And so, I appreciate building this brand with him. I appreciate helping him promote. I appreciate hearing about his visions. I appreciate us just talking. I love his daughter. I'm about to have a kid. I hope one day they're friends. Who knows? Lord knows what's going to happen. Yeah. But that's all the stuff that definitely goes into building a brand. So you're welcome, and thank you.
Thank you, man.
So
he got the chairs.
Yeah. So. Yeah, they're cool. So this is the first time I'm using these mics. And,
these mics, man.
This is my second live podcast.
It's legit.
So I wanna definitely take this thing to a bigger stage. And so it's cool to work with, because he's not only am I helping him, he's helping me, because this is my dream. It's my dream to do a podcast instead of us just being in a room solo. I like bringing the people out. Obviously because of COVID, we weren't able to do it, but this is just the beginning, because he's a fashion designer. Imagine if we bring in some bigger names and we open up, and then, so these are the building blocks. How do you set up? Okay, next time, what kind of food? Next time we're going to have this. So we're learning as we're going, and we're actually building a brand. So that's what I love about this process as a whole. And it's cool to work with somebody who you can bounce ideas off of. And even if he just don't throw in the towel, like, it's working. Like, okay, let's a work in progress. So it's a beautiful relationship to build.
For sure.
Pretty much, I know that you've built Qain Abel. What direction are you trying to take the brand? Where if you had what's your 1 year plan, and then maybe what's like the 5 year plan?
I would say definitely sourcing our own garments and releasing our own fabrics and stuff, and just trying to keep our standard very high, like where these top end brands are at right now.
Yeah. Not
trying to compete with any Bay Area brands or some of these just brands that are just being built.
Let's go back. You said something that's very complicated very quickly. Yeah. What do you mean source your own fabrics and have your own fabrics, and do you mean you want to do go ahead and explain it?
So basically going out to LA, sourcing my own fabrics and then cutting and sewing it, making my own t-shirts, not going through a blank company.
Okay.
So cut and sewing all my garments. By the end of this year, I want to kind of get our samples out.
Okay.
But really having that distinct fabric, if you see on Louis Vuitton, they're different. They're distinguished fabric, or Burberry. By just the colors and the patterns that this is a Burberry thing. I want that distinct look. So when people just see a blank garment, there's something about it that shows that this is Qain Abel, and I could just slap a label. I don't need a graphic on it.
Okay.
To have it define what Qain Abel is.
That's dope.
I think me and my wife, we really wanted to change the narrative of Bay Area clothing.
Yeah.
Because I do feel like Bay Area really focuses on graphics. It has to have this cool design on it, and not enough people focus on how it feels on their customers.
Oh, wow. That's true.
So like, I was searching for like luxury blanks. Like we found a place in Portugal, and that's where we're sourcing it from. And
Yeah.
they're handmade out there, and they're not cheap. I was telling you the prices and how much profits we're making on it. And it's, like you said, it's not really about the money. It's more about letting people experience like what we experienced first.
That's dope.
Because I was just like, I could buy this full price if I could, but being able to give the, yes, best designs, but also best fabrics, and having a culture around that, like focusing on how you feel as well as how you look in it, is what was most important to us.
Yeah, this shirt feels good. Even today when I was, because I'm in and out of the shop, and so when I got back to pick up this order, my business partner, and mind you, my nickname is the Shirt Plug. So we see shirts. Like today I probably printed up hundreds of shirts. My company did. I didn't personally print them, but the company, my brand, printed up hundreds of shirts. And my business partner, as I was leaving, I was impressed. He was like, "What kind of shirts are these?" He's like, "These are nice." And so for him to say that, I'm talking, I do shirts. He's the real plug. And so for him to even say that, it caught my ear, and it let me know that you're in the right direction, because like I said, we see a lot of garments. And so I just want to say, man, like your passion is very infectious, and it radiates. And like as you talk, all I can, like, the subtone in my brain is like, man, this guy's passion is crazy. So keep it up. Where does that passion come from?
I think just the willingness to succeed and leave a legacy. Like, I have a daughter, so it's just like leaving that legacy for her. Like, if I were to die today, I know that Qain Abel will be taken care of in the future. Not right now, she's only 2, but like, I want to set a stone for her that it's also, I want to give her the example of passion.
For sure.
Like my parents were faith-based, and my dad is still a pastor, and like he was really passionate about his church.
Yeah.
And building his church. And I got the privilege of being under them and their guidance and learning from their wisdom. I feel like my wisdom comes directly from them and God, but having that example.
Yeah.
And then just meeting people like you too just strives me to be better.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people that just kind of like motivate me to get better. Like,
for sure.
I don't like to use jealousy to get better, because then I feel like that's the wrong motive.
It is. Please don't.
And to compare yourself to anybody is just already dangerous.
Nah, no. Jealousy is a form of hate.
And that's really what happened in the story of Qain Abel. He didn't let it motivate him, and it ended tragically. But I believe that the passion does come from how I was raised and my willingness to succeed.
For sure. And I just, like a tidbit for anybody listening, I definitely think that you never want to compare yourself. It wasn't, and I remember being young, and everybody knows, like, not everybody, but people meet this version of me, and I do the podcast, and like honestly, I was like, it's low-key weird to some people, you know what I mean? Like how I move now, it makes sense when people see, like, oh, I was doing this podcast 2 years ago. I had a camera, I was filming, doing videos 2 years ago, and it wasn't really into the pandemic to where people were like, oh, and this skill set. But what I'm really trying to say is, when I looked and I compared myself to other people and tried to be like other people, first of all, I was unhappy.
Yeah.
I had a level of unsuccess. It wasn't until I branched out and I did my thing that I started to find happiness. Yeah, I maybe wasn't in the cool group or something like that. I'm still cool.
I think it was just you being you.
Yeah. And so there's no way to reach one of my favorite sayings, like two of my favorite things to say is, like, we have so much power. Like, even they say, like if you could break us down on a molecule level or whatever, we have enough power in our pinkies to light up a city, like a city block. Like, that's how much power we have in us. And so imagine your own body. So I always think about that. Like, you have so much juice inside of you. And then I just think about really like using that power and you being authentically you is what creates success. That's why I gravitated to you, because I was like, this guy could have, there's so many shortcuts and easy ways we could have done this. And, you know, like he doesn't have to source his stuff from Portugal. It doesn't have to be hand sewn. I could have got him a $3 t-shirt and threw a $2 logo on it, and we could have had a $5 product out the gate. And he said, nah, I'm not trying to do it like that. I really care about this. And so it's crazy, man. I definitely like to see it. So it motivates me. And so when I meet individuals that are truly identifying themselves, it definitely motivates me. Yeah. And it creates a synergy. And having, you know, my girl is very supportive, and I see how supportive your girl is. Yeah. And so having a good woman in your corner definitely hurts. We could do a whole podcast on that.
I think it's just clearly visible when you can see someone identifying as themselves too.
Yeah.
Like, I think it's so attractive when you can meet somebody like that they don't need to compare with somebody, or like, what's the word? I think it is just compare. Like, I remember when we met in middle school, Kat and I, but like, I remember us early on, it was just like there was some of that comparison, but we were young and immature.
It happens when you're young.
We got to learn from that, and we get the chance to like make sure like our daughter doesn't have to go through that.
Yeah.
And being able to teach her from our mistakes that we went through.
For sure.
But yeah, I think it's clearly visible when you can see someone that's really not like selfish about themselves, but clearly they don't need anybody's approval. They'll just go on about their life knowing that they're doing their best.
I think what happens too is, I think what I kind of fell in love with is the going into the unknown. So even how you threw this, you know, we did a live podcast. I told you this is my second one, and he definitely took the helm on this one. I just made sure that the skeleton was set up, you know, table, mics, the logisticals type stuff. He brought everything else. That being said, so I lost my train of thought. I was looking at these people, but I lost my train of thought. But so we'll move on. I apologize.
You're good.
Where do you, so your stuff, obviously you talked about sourcing it, but your stuff it's priced a little bit higher than the average t-shirt. I think you have a t-shirt that's $60. How much are your hoodies?
100.
Okay, 100. So what makes your stuff unique, and how did you get to those price points?
I think also like being smart too.
Yeah.
Like, I can't just lose money, because then what's that gonna teach my daughter?
Yeah.
But also knowing like the integrity of it. It's never to make money, but I went out of my way. Like, the time that I spent looking for this supplier, the time on designs, like these designs were since August of last year. Like, these were designs that I was sitting on for months and just waiting for the perfect time to release. And I think the time and effort and where we source the pricing of it, it's actually cheap for what I'm buying it for.
Yeah.
And I think once people understand that it's more so to have the product out and known is the most important thing to me. And just my main goal is to see and inspire people to be the best. And I know it's easy to say like, oh, I'm giving my best, but I think we can clearly see when individuals are giving their best.
For sure.
You see the reward. I think Elon said something like, people will be on social media like, oh, I'm going on a social media hiatus, and then 3 months they're back on it and nothing has changed.
Yeah.
And I've always took that, like, if I'm gonna post something on social media, like, it's gonna be real and genuine. Like,
for sure,
if I say I'm gonna do something, it's gonna happen. And just being very intentional with everything I do. Even like the social media, it's like being intent with every post that goes out. It's not something like, oh, here's a picture. You know, there's a plan to everything.
For sure. Everything
was thought out. And I'm learning as I go too.
We all
it's not
are.
easy.
No.
You know? And taking the time to know social media, it's a lot of time and effort. And I really value this project because this is something I would buy myself at this price.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it's definitely worth the price point.
But that's where the pricing comes from. It's the design time, the sourcing, and just the integrity behind it, and the message.
I love. So, going back to kind of earlier and even tying into this, I love what you said about, the Bay Area thing, because I've been doing pop-ups out of this location and I've been seeing some amazing stuff and amazing vendors. And when we're younger, like, I think a lot of us came up in the hyphy movement. And so if you remember the hyphy t-shirts, it would be like Mac Dre on a shirt, or it'd be like SpongeBob on a shirt with like a gold grill. Like, you guys wore them. Don't act like you didn't. This is anybody in the Bay Area knows what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Super baggy. And then it evolved into like the Hypebeast movement. And we're still, we're on the tail end of like just the Hypebeast movement. I feel like we're in a movement now where anybody can wear and dress and say and be whatever they want. We're kind of just in this like super expressive stage. But I definitely like that the Bay Area has an opportunity to be on the map. And so I love that your brand is pushing that. I love that you're pushing into, and not to compare you to Kanye West, but it's that Kanye West type thing to where it's a very passion-based, very, very great feel, great, like, you might see his stuff and be like, what is that? But Kanye West is he's flying to Paris to source stuff. He's flying to Japan, and he's flying to all these places just to find the perfect tee and the perfect length and and so I love that you're bringing that to the Bay Area, because a lot of these brands are just, shortcutting. And so I'm glad that the value is locked into that price, because now you can grow. And if that's the one thing I love about business, is if you do it good, you grow. Look at Google. Google was a search engine. Now Google is friggin' everything. They have YouTube, they have all these, but if Google itself wasn't good in the beginning, they wouldn't be able to acquire these other companies. So I love that you're taking so much time, because your brand is going to explode. Started with a t-shirt, now you have hats, now you have the totes, and there's so many more products that could possibly come out of this brand. So I love what you're doing for the Bay Area, and I love your brand as a whole. Another thing that I like with you building your brand, and it's, when my train of thought was lost, it was this. It's people are afraid to fail. Yeah. People are afraid. I call it, especially with doing events, you can't be afraid of no one showing up to your event, because there's a saying. It's a lion doesn't be a cub lion. We all know what a cub lion looks like. It's all cute, and you'd pick up, if I had a cub lion in here, we'd play with it. If there was a big lion in here, we would all be scared. Excuse my language, shitless. We'd all be scared as hell if a big lion came in here. And so why does a cub lion go from looking like a cub to looking like a big lion? It's from the hunt. It's from hunting. They get their muscles, they get their strength, they get their speed, they get everything. They go from a cub to a big lion from the hunt. But here's the catch to that story. Every time a lion hunts, it don't catch food. It's maybe, we'll say 25% of the time they catch something, but they're still hunting. And so by doing events like this, you're hunting. Even if no one showed up, it teaches you how to go to the store. It teaches us how to set up mics. It teaches us how to be ready by a certain time. It teaches us how to hunt. And so what I love about your brand is that you're constantly hunting, and you're not afraid to hunt, even if you don't make a sale or a kill, or it's not the hottest thing, because now you're learning how to build a brand. You're learning how to do a podcast. You're learning how to do all of these things. And that's what I love about your brand, is you took that risk. A lot of people, or what they'll do is, like, even if you say 5 or 10 or 20 of your homies are going to show up, some of them canceled. You didn't cancel. We had a hiccup with the shirts. You still didn't cancel. You're like, I'll wing it. We're going to wing it. And so that's what's important, is going through and going through the process, for going through the process of what that process is going to create out of you, not just going through the process because there's a bunch of money at the end, but going through that process because of who it's going to create. And I'll let you speak on that. And then, so what gives you that drive? What makes you not fearful to hunt? What made you go through with this podcast? What made you go through with inviting your friends? Where does that, hunter's mentality come from?
I think, again, just my parents. I never had money growing up.
Yeah.
Like, I wasn't like poverty poor living on the streets. Like, they did their best to always have me in clothes. Like, I was in a pair of shoes the whole year.
Yeah.
Like, and it wasn't their fault, you know. Like my dad had liver cancer, and my parents went bankrupt because of it.
Wow.
And had transplant. You know, there was a time I almost lost both my parents because my mom donated half of her liver during the whole transplant, and you know, her willingness to sacrifice her life for my dad kind of just shows me how powerful love can be.
Yeah.
Itself, just not even in a romantic relationship, but love for anything, and how hard she loves on him.
Yeah.
I mean, she was willing to give her life up.
Yeah.
What
a
Jesus
piece of her
did
liver.
For all of us, you know.
I don't know how much I love my girl. You know what I'm saying?
And in this past couple years, she just gave her kidney to him.
Wow.
And then also, like, I was inspired a lot by Fear of God and Jerry Lorenzo and his.
I still gotta check him out. You said him
beliefs.
so many times.
Yeah. So like, you know, when we were starting Qain Abel, it was just like I wanted the standard that Fear of God had right now. So where Fear of God is at right now, I wanted to keep that standard. Where I'm nowhere near where Fear of God is at right now, but my standard is the same. And I think by the time this brand can grow in the next couple of years, our standard will be higher than theirs.
Yeah.
Because I put so much effort to being just like them, not comparing to them, but having that same standard of perfection and having so much intention behind everything. Like every little detail matters in a sense. And I think my daughter pushes me just to be great.
Yeah. I think for me and my brand, I think that's the direction I'm going, is just becoming much more on the luxury side. Not saying I'll always take care of the little man, and I'll always take care of anybody who ever has the humility to come to me and ask me for everything. I'll always make, even if it's a minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, to give them game, because I came from nothing. I was selling boot, like how my career started, how I started, like if you know me now, like I sell shirts and hats and banners and do everything. I was able to buy a new car and done fix and flips and done houses and done things like that. But there was a time where I didn't have nothing, you know, and it was through straight prayer, meditation, that I was able to change and turn my life around. And it wasn't until I started listening to God that I was able to really turn my life around. So I love the passion, but that's, you know, I definitely think with my brand, even this spot, I just went out to Napa, and, you know, it's always good to travel. And we did a little wine tasting, and the venue was beautiful. Same square footage as this, but beautiful. It's like like real wood around the doors, beautiful art like you're seeing behind me, just like immaculate. And I'm like, I need to take my brand and my thought process there. I need to take who I am there. And so it's cool seeing somebody who's like, I need to take my clothing brand there. I need to, and so it becomes very intentional with what, you know, I'm just very intentional on it. So it's cool to see that you're doing that. My next question really is like, is your knowledge and your hustle, is it now? I know I meet people like Gary V. He don't read books. I don't know if you guys know who Gary Vaynerchuk is. He's a lot popular now. When I say his name, before no one knew. But like Gary V don't read books. He's just straight intuitive and just a straight hustler, and you know. And then there's like me, like I'm dumb as hell, but I consume so much information that it makes me seem smart. And I meditate and I write goals, and I can't think of the name, but I see myself in the situations that I want to be in. Yeah. Do you do any type of meditation? Are you getting is this natural, this hustle, or are you learning day in and day out?
I think the hustle is God-given, but I mean this brand was built out of prayer. Like it was me asking, like, why did Distress fail? Or it wasn't what I wanted. Like the success wasn't where I wanted it to be. And it was just having that intimate time with God. Like, what do you want from me? Like I felt like I gave everything to this project, and he was just like, I want more. And you kind of sit back and like, what is more? Like I just gave more. I gave my best, and it was just like, read, have more time with me.
Yeah.
And then reading brought life to this brand, you know. It was just there. And prayer is really something that it's a powerful thing to have. It's
It
a
is.
weapon for yourself, to defend against anything.
I agree.
And I solely believe that meditating is just as powerful, but I feel like having a conversation with someone, a powerful being like that, can be way more powerful than just talking to a person like how we are right now. Because you can just share any thought you have.
Yeah.
And you can argue with him too.
For sure.
And ask why, like I was just like, why is this not working?
Yeah.
And it was simple, just give me more.
Yeah, I've had many of conversations with God. Every morning, my first thing is read a little Bible verse and sit there and pray for like 10 minutes. And I just feel like sometimes hey, I'll never be ashamed to talk about God. But I just feel like it's like a secret weapon.
It is.
You know what I mean? It's like people are like, oh, how are you successful? Or how do you do this? And how do you do that? And I'm like, prayer, giving. And then it's really like sometimes God will call you to do things. The thing that turned my life around is I kept hearing tithe. Give me 10%, give me 10%, give me 10%. I don't want to go off on a tangent, but I'll finish the story. Tithe, give me 10%. And if you read, I've written 3 books. All of my books, I give credit to this. Give me 10%. My girl at the time, my ex, she was balling. She didn't go to church. She didn't do anything. Got a good job, balling. And I was like, she's balling. She ain't tithing. Let me do my thing. And still, so I didn't do it. And then one day I was like, you know what? Like I kind of just hit, quote unquote, my little rock bottom. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to give 10% to God. And once I did that, that was honestly the game changer for me. That's what really turned everything around. Yeah. And it was and I just went to church maybe like 2 weeks ago, and it reaffirmed that, I thought tithing was like a monetary thing, but it's also to remind us to put God first. Yeah. And so that's what I love about your brand, is it puts God first in that brand. And for anybody who's not religious, I'm not trying to, push religion down your throat. I have a relationship, just like me having a relationship with somebody. You don't have to have a relationship with them, but I'm not going to hate on you either way. But my relationship with, what I believe is God is definitely a game changer. So is there anything else you want, the people to know about your brand? Anything else that you didn't let our live studio audience know?
I think if you guys have any questions,
so we can definitely open up the Q&A. Does anybody have any questions for Mr. Don V or for myself? It could be on anything. If you're thinking about starting a brand, maybe what's the hardest part? If you're thinking about business, I have a lot of business experience. So does anybody have any questions?
So how did you come up with the story for the brand? I know a lot of times people, when they buy from you, they don't buy so much the product, like they buy the story behind it.
Yeah. I mean, I think the story was exactly the same. I just took the analogy of the tithe. It goes back to their tithe and offering, and when it was time to give, Abel's was, in this analogy, he was giving like Ruth Chris, right, the best steaks, his firstborns of his herd, and Qain was just giving some like Brussels sprouts, like some weeds. Like the thought wasn't the same as Abel's thought. Like Abel was just like, here's my best, take it, do what you need with it. And Abel was just like, here's 3%. Like, this is what I can give you. And I see that in anything you do in life, whether it's you're in school, there's a lot of things that you can, I did it. I took shortcuts in school. I didn't go the college route. I just got a high school diploma and some city college, some junior college stuff. But there's people that have the ambition to do it, and they're willing to give their best. I wasn't willing to give my best there, and I knew that wasn't for me. And if it is for you, that's totally fine. I'm happy for you. But I think what Abel brought and what Qain, there's definitely examples in today's life where you can see who was actually giving their best and who wasn't. And I think the best analogy is like athletes. I know people in the NBA, and I know where they were when they were like in elementary school. They were in the gym because their parents were tough on them. And then their passion and love for the game transcended to when they were mature enough to keep doing it, and their parents didn't have to be that voice like, hey, you're gonna keep doing this. But I think something triggered, like, this is what I actually love, and they were willing to. What is the quote, like, you can't, or Kobe says, you can't cheat the game. You can't, like, in anything. Game doesn't necessarily.
I think it was, she wasn't with me shooting in the gym. I think that's what it was.
Like, in anything, not just sports, you can't cheat what you're doing. And Qain was a perfect example of cheating God. And Abel was just like, here, have everything.
That story, and how you twist that story gives me an emotional experience, because I've never looked at Qain and Abel that deep, honestly. I've never heard that side of it. I've never thought about the offering thing. I've never thought about, like, you're really, like, I swear, like, I'm not just saying this because there's people around, like, it's really resonating with me, and it's really, like, renewing that story. Like, I'm probably gonna go home and reread it. Like, it's so powerful, and I'm glad that you were able to build a brand around such a iconic moment in history, and get so many dope lessons from it, and that are applicable to, I think I said that right, to any brand and anything. And it definitely resonates in my story, because it's dope. It reminds me of like when I first started tithing. Like, I was so, like, I'm a bartender by trade. Obviously, because of the pandemic, I had to stop, but some of my tithes would be in cash, and I just made sure to not give the crusty ones or the crusty tens or like, I always try to give the best money and the best, and give wholeheartedly. And so I think I love the story too, because with Qain and Abel, he never did it to get to heaven. He never did it to, I don't even feel, he did it with such faith, like, I'm gonna give God the best. It was never like, I'm gonna give God the best because. There was no because there. And so I love, like, that's my biggest takeaway. There's no because. Like, I'm gonna have the best mics. I'm gonna have the best computer, because that's what's gonna glorify God the most, really. And that's, you know what I mean? So it's a very powerful story, and I'm taking a lot from the story of Qain and Abel and from the story of your brand. I like it.
Definitely. Yeah.
I'm gonna reiterate the question. So he said, where do you get, just so we have it on wax, he said, where do you get your creative vision from? The logos, the color scheme, what else?
Yeah, logos, colors, the style of hoodie.
The style of hoodie, the style of shirts. Where do you get all that from?
Yeah, I think a lot of it comes from the inspiration of Fear of God too. Like, I just loved how he kind of orchestrated an outfit. And I've always been a sole believer of fashion isn't necessarily the name of the brand you wear. It's how you can present it yourself. You can go to Old Navy and rock a nice fit, and people would never know. But just how your confidence and style yourself is basically a personality trait, in my opinion. But I think, like, my creative vision just comes from, I guess, like, I had a conversation with Caleb a few weeks ago about how I was afraid to be a creative. Like, growing up, I was only into sports. Like, I thought I was creative, but I was just like, nobody would like it. And I think after Kobe got out of the league and he started doing just creative things, like writing books, did a short film, won an Oscar, I was just like, okay, if he could do it, I could do it, you know? And he kind of motivated me. Like, when we first got married, I wasn't doing art, and I picked up an iPad and started doing graphic design. Actually, someone you guys know, Keone Block, he actually inspired me too, just seeing his work. But I think, like, the creative behind, like, a lot of people ask about the Q and stuff, like, why Q and not the C. Honestly, it was Instagram didn't have a C.
It's funny how stuff works out.
But I was like, how can I do Qain, and then Keone's daughter's name is Qain, but with the K, and I was just like, okay, I can't do K. I was like sounding out letters, and I was just like, ooh, Q, like, gives off that same kind of pronunciation, and I was just like, ooh, like Q&A. And then that's how this podcast came to about too, like Q&A with the creator of Q&A. It was more so the aesthetic and the Instagram name, and being able to use that handle anywhere. Like, my domain is with the Q, everything is Q&A.
It's probably super easy to find.
Yeah. I mean,
Site.
I don't know anybody who's just going to search like the story of Q&A, but it will resonate in the future lining. But yeah, that's kind of like the history behind the Q. But like the colors were just something that I really like, neutral tones. Like, you know, we have a few brand colors. We have this like slate gray, the spruce, aged white, and we call it blue cement. It's nothing we have right now, but it will be a color that will be surfacing soon. But those are just colors that I really like. They're very neutral, attractive in my eyes, and I also have to think like, do I love this enough to wear it, or would I buy it if someone else made it? And I think that's just where it comes from. Like the creative really, I think it was burning inside from a young kid, but I think my insecurities never wanted to like let it out. So I think I've been doing a lot of creating, whether it's photography, singing, and designing. But yeah.
That's tight. Yeah, I definitely. I've always been a creative person, but I feel like the pandemic really helped. Like, it unlocked a whole nother level for me. Like, I just being home all day. Like, once you got past like that lay in bed and just watch every Netflix movie, then it was like, for me, I've always been like kind of like against the river. Like, if everyone's just chilling at home on their phones, I was just like, I'm gonna create stuff for people to watch, and it really actually helped my brand. So I just I created. Again, you know, I bought a course by this guy named Billy Gina's Marketing, and he talked about green screens and different things. And I was like, he was like, you can go on Amazon and buy any type of prop you want. So I just went on Amazon. I spent like $100, and you know, and so it's tapping into my creative. Like, it was uncut. Like, I have a room full of wigs. I got fake guns. I got fake money. But it was uncomfortable. It was like very, 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 very uncomfortable to throw on a wig and release a video. But now I haven't done as much because I've been doing so much. But people, when I was doing, I have a character named Ivan. When I was dropping videos by this character named Ivan, and I would go out in public, everybody would be like, yo, where's Ivan at? Like, bring out, like, did you bring him with you? And so it had such a huge thing. But just to keep on the topic of creativity, the things that we're scared of the most sometimes are the things that we need to do the most.
Yeah, and I think that's faith too. Like when we were investing in our models, you know, like we really wanted a high production, high level type shoot, and we wanted 4 models, and you know that meant more money, and you know it is more money to do a sample project. It's not cheap, and it was scary for us to like pull that trigger, you know, on like an almost $2,000 job for nothing that wasn't gonna make us money until now.
Yeah.
You know, like this was back in February. I made that investment to be like, this is gonna work, and it's only scary because he's testing me. Like, just trust me, and you know, I did it, and we're here now. But yeah,
I want to touch on, just for anybody listening and for, you know, the live studio audience. People think that, like how you did that photo shoot, right? And you think about the money and how you did the samples, and you think about the money, and people don't realize that you might be building $1 million skill set. Because when I bought this camera, I bought it to just do cheesy videos. Or when I learned how to use a green screen. I was in my room. I used to just have like when I was dating, I used to have a green screen on my wall in my room, and girls would be like, what the hell is that? And it's a green screen, and I was creating these videos, and I had these characters, right? Yeah. And I thought this was for me, and like, why would I spend? Ivan wasn't making me any money. Yeah. That brand wasn't making me any money. I bought this camera, it wasn't making me any money, but I still did it. I was called to do it, right? But what people don't realize is that you're building a skill. And so fast forward, I get the opportunity. I bought this camera. I get the opportunity to invest in an Airbnb. I had the camera. I know how to do video. So now I just send my guests a check-in video that I created, and I send them this, but it came from that skill. Yeah. Then from doing that Airbnb and having this camera, the landlord's like, you're doing good. It's upstairs. They seen my tenants. Yeah. The landlord came to me, and he's like, I see how you're paying the rent on time. You took care. I made the spot look dope. Even paid my own money to get an electrician in there. I'm about to buy an AC unit. I bought blinds. So things that you, as a tenant, I don't have to do. I did that on my own. And then he was like, hey, you can take over this pop-up shop downstairs. Thank you guys. Have a blessed evening. He's like, you could take care of this pop-up shop downstairs. What do you think we used to promote the pop-up shop? My camera, my green screen, those same props, the same, you know what I mean? And so we're talking a year and a half later. And so, but if I would have never stepped out in faith and gotten the green screen and gotten the cameras and gotten the courses and gotten those things, I would have never been in the position that I am today. And so I'm telling you that, yeah, you spent this money, and yeah, I hope that Qain Abel goes on to make $1 million and trillions of dollars and feeds your family forever. But you have a skill set that not a lot of people have. You understand how to send a diagram. You understand how to do a photo shoot. You understand how to source models. You understand how to do all these things. We could charge a course and $50 a ticket, how to build a clothing brand. And people could come and sit in these same chairs and you could charge tickets for that because of that skill set. So don't ever think that when you are doing something, don't think that that's the end of it. You don't know who you're going to be called on to lift up or called on to elevate with those same skills. So that day will last forever. If you would have stayed home and not spent the money, that skill set would have stayed home and never been with you. So never be afraid. Not obviously don't go crazy and be within, like, it's either feed my daughter or make this video shoot. Like, if that's really what it is, like, then, and you're that passionate, then go ahead. I'm not going to discourage you. But that skill set will live on forever. Like, I want to know, like, how did you do the photo shoot? How did you find out? Actually, how did you, tell us, we'll actually, did anybody else have any questions before I ask a question? Tell us, we'll end. We're coming up on an hour, so that'll be my last question. Tell us about this $2,000 photo shoot. What did it entail? What did you take away from it? And was it worth it?
Definitely worth it. I think it just taught me that culture is not cheap. And if you want, an outstanding culture around what you're trying to present, you, not saying, like you said, go crazy on it, but do enough that shows who you are at this moment. And, as the brand progresses, money will, and we can do more and get better things. Like when we start sourcing our own graphics or our own garments and cutting and sewing, like that's going to be even more money. But when we have the resources to do it, it would have all made sense at that time. Like I said, like it was just a faith. Like I had to pull the trigger. Like I know he's just doing it and I just have to do it. But I think at that time it was just really scary. We had to pray on it, and then finally just said, yeah, here. We bought the garments, went to you, got them, and then we were trying to release in mid-April, and then things didn't work out, and we're here and we're releasing Monday. These guys right here get a chance to buy it today. But yeah, it was just scary, and I had to sit in prayer and pull that trigger.
That's dope.
Yeah.
So make sure you guys follow this guy. Make sure you guys get his merch. Make sure that you guys follow his Instagram, because the guy's going to be bringing heat. And I love watching what people do. Like when I hand them something and the photo shoot's beautiful, go check it out on his page. But with that being said, how can people find you?
Yeah, if you just search Qain Abel with a Q, on every social media, it's and, not the sign. So just search Qain and Abel, and the domain is qainabel.com. Everything's there. I'm on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Yeah.
Dope. So my name's JD, owner of Part of the Culture. You can find me on Instagram at Part of the Culture, spelled normal, one word, or you can find my website is partoftheculture.art. Anybody, I always throw this offer out. Anybody listening, I wrote a book on business, 10 steps to level up in business. I wrote a book on once you start making money in business, you need to learn how to invest. So I wrote a book called How to Fill Empty Pockets. So anybody who listens to this and slides in my DM on Instagram or goes to partoftheculture.art and sends me a message, I'll send you my ebook completely free. I want to thank you for coming on the show today and bringing this fire Fiji water. That's how you know you made it. So I had a good time, and just want to say thank you. You know.
Yeah, man. Thank
So-
you. This is fun.